Alright there, geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Game Show. But you know what? On last week's Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby, I spoke about video games that dared to punish us for playing on easy mode. You know what? I had my feathers ruffled and my hackles raised talking about that. Why are devs punishing me for wanting to play on easy mode? Because I'm bold? It's not my fault that my family was cursed by a swamp witch. Well, you know what? It turns out that there are some developers out there with something more than just contempt for their player base and have added in rewards, shortcuts, and surprises for players who are struggling in their titles. Gold, glory, and god-killing weapons can be yours, my friends, but only if you, well, absolutely suck at playing them. Confused? Well, don't be, because that's today's list that we're talking about here today. Because I'm Jules, this is FGS, and we are talking about 8 video games that rewarded you for sucking. And you know the drill by now, this is the Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby! So that means we're going to be talking about games you don't know about, need to know more about, or games you haven't thought about in a while. So don't go expecting to see like the chicken hat from MGS or the golden tanuki suit from Mario. No, we're going deeper, my friends. And let's kick things off with number 8, Torneko, The Last Hope. Amazing gear for pretty awful play. Okay, my friends, I will level with you here. There is one major reason why I love doing these deep cut lists, and it's mainly because of the fact that when delving through the annals of history, I find games that I just am so happy to bring to the masses, to get more people playing them, to spark that joy of maybe talking about a game that you played when you were growing up. And I found an absolute gem that I didn't even know about, and I'm gonna do a full playthrough of it. Torneko, The Last Hope on the PS1. It is brilliant. This mystery dungeon prototype is a sublime, with extra slime, mix of dungeon exploration, item management, and so much hoarding of gear that even Smog or Smaug from The Hobbit is like, whoa buddy, maybe that's a bit too much treasure over there. It's got charming visuals, an exquisite soundtrack, and you get to play as a Dragon Quest fan favourite all in his own adventure. Plus, did I mention there's slimes? I bloody love the slimes from Dragon Quest. Look, here's one right here. I love you, my dude. You are a legend of design, just perfect design. I love slime so much. I wish I was on bloody Get Your Own Back. It's a UK TV show where people got gunged. Yet for some, the difficulty that presents itself in this title might actually be a little too much, and they may end up on the receiving end of a beatdown even in the early game. Well, unfurrow that brow, my friend, because we're going to be talking about how this game actually rewards you for doing pretty terribly, because if you die 8 times in the opening area, which is just called Odd Field, you will be rewarded with an extremely powerful sword and shield. After you've died 8 times, you'll be able to speak to your wife Tessie, who basically looks you up and down before saying, oh, right, well, you suck at adventuring, please, for the love of God, take these. And you're just kind of like, oh, bless you, love, thank you so much for this. Wait a minute, are you meaning to tell me that you had access to these items and you waited for me to die 8 times before you decided to give them to me? Why are we holding out on me? I'm literally your husband. You're meant to be in love with me. You're meant to support me. Is this why you took out a life insurance policy recently with the extra addendum for the dies in a random field from monster attacks? That seemed pretty strange then that you really requested for that. You know what? This is grounds for divorce, but I will deal with this when I'm done dealing with that.
Oh my god.
Okay? We are not done here. Either way, you now have some true monster slaying equipment, and all you had to do was absolutely bungle it at the first hurdle 8 times. It's kind of like Alundra rewarding you with the most powerful sword in the game for sucking at adventuring. But here you also get a shield as well, so eat my portly ass, Alundra. Number 7, just start typing. Type real slow like. And so we turn to the weird, wild, and woeful experiences that make up the edutainment genre. You know, video games that masquerade themselves as a fun time but are about teaching you, I don't know, like quantum physics and stuff like that. It's about the same as a fun time as when you go over to like a family event and you get lumbered looking after all of your young nieces and nephews. I mean, joke's on them though, because Uncle Jules, I like to do this thing where I just feed them full of chocolate and sweets about 5 minutes before handing them back to their parents. Have fun with that, cousin Jackie. Enjoy that car ride home. You don't mess with me. And you know what? You can also make a mockery out of Just Start Typing, a title which is designed to help you spell better and type quicker. And in order to embarrass this game, all you need to do is have an utterly terrible assessment test at the beginning of the title. Here, Just Start Typing assesses your skills with a set of simple tests in order to set a baseline on which for you then to improve on. Meaning that if you decide to, I don't know, type just one single word in a minute or keep failing at spelling, well, you'll be given the most simplistic tasks going forward. Now I hear you asking yourself, how is this a reward, Jules, you shiny, magnificent egg? But I'll tell you, my friend. One is the fact that you now can breeze through the game on the easiest possible settings, and two, you can shorten the amount of time you have to spend with this game. If you had to play this game as a child, then I feel very, very sorry for you, because your parents are the type of people who gave out prunes at Halloween. Oh, it's still a sweet, is it? Number 6, Summoner, made to fail.
Right then, fellow wizards, let's cast a spell to summon our next deep cut entry. Obscurus Piasturus!
Oh look, is the Summoner for the PS. That is really annoying, that voice. It's the Summoner for the PS2, a game that is a game for the PS2. Okay, I'm being a bit harsh there. It's a fine game. The graphics look like reheated dog sick, but it plays pretty well for the most part, tries a lot of inventive stuff, doesn't necessarily succeed at all of them, which is what I'm leading into now, as we talk about a very painful section of stealth that was included in the Summoner, which thankfully had an easy escape route. Now, in this early game stealth mission, you need to sneak about a castle in search of another character. Now, stealth games, as we're all aware, are a pretty hard genre to do right when it's just the sole focus, but here, in a game where this mechanic has literally just been tacked on for a few missions, what hope did it have? Every time that you're spotted by the guards, and trust me, you will be because of their eagle-eyed vision, door-opening mechanics that take their sweet-ass time to let you through, and just not knowing which of the many, many rooms are locked in the first place and will leave you just standing in the open like a ripe plum duff, you'll be sent right back to the start of the encounter, with your hero becoming increasingly frustrated with both themselves and your companion who offers to help. I actually really enjoyed this bit here, because when you fail after a few times, your companion's like, are you sure you don't want me to come along with you? And then you just are like, I tell you what, mate, I'd rather break my legs. However, it turns out that the devs put in a failsafe for this mission should you be struggling, and all it costs you is your dignity, because if you fail a few times, a cook will now appear near the entrance who will chastise you for not wearing your peasant uniform before giving you said smelly clothing. And by equipping this, you can now walk through the castle completely unhindered, making the mission so stupidly easy. And all it cost you was your very dignity. But to be fair though, the joke is on the people who end up laughing at you here, because if they go, oh, look at that peasant over there, look at him having to defile himself by wearing such stinky clothing. Remember, by the end of this game, you can call down the heavens themselves in terms of magical attacks. So yeah, laugh it up, mate. Wait until that asteroid that I've just called down here lands on your goddamn bonds. Well, now, my friends, looks like things are heating up on this list, but you know what does actually suck? The amount of people that watch The Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby, and don't subscribe to the FGS YouTube channel. Come on, do me a favor, as well as supporting my colleagues as well. We work hard to provide you daily gaming content, and if you subscribe, then you will stay up to date with all of the other Deep Cut laden lists that I provide, so it is a win-win-win. The extra win was just us winning together. So do it now. Come on, treat yourself. Number 5, The Lost Vikings 2. Creative deaths mean creative rewards. So as we've covered on this list so far, gaming the system by absolutely sucking can net yourself some pretty tasty treats. And while that is true of the Schneers Deep Cut The Lost Vikings 2, you're actually going to have to work pretty hard to be so bad that the game actually steps in with a helping hand. I say this because in this glorious puzzle platformer in which you guide 3 Vikings on their quest, you have to die in the very first screen in order to get a bonus power-up for all of your characters. Now, if this were, say, Super Mario, Ninja Gaiden, or Ride to Hell Retribution, death in the opening few seconds of the game is fairly easy. I mean, you've got Goombas and Pitfalls for Super Mario's, you've got just the enemies being absolute units in Ninja Gaiden, and you've got your soul dying itself because you're starting to play Ride to Hell Retribution. But here, though, there are no enemies, there are no obstacles, there are no pitfalls for you to die in, so how do you get this bonus reward? Well, it turns out that you need to use Olaf's shield as a platform and then double jump as Eric in order to land in a dropped ditch. Doing so will trigger full damage, and after 3 attempts the game will step in and say you most definitely need a boost. It's mad to think that the game doles out these powerful rewards for dropping the ball so hard in the first section, but equally crazy to think just how much effort and outside the box thinking you need to do this in the first place. Number 4. Becoming the bottom feeder. Unreal Tournament 2004. Now when it comes to Unreal Tournament, there are only 2 types of people. Those that are winners standing atop the mountain of victory, and the dead that make up the aforementioned victorious mound. Or at least that's how things normally play out. However, in 2004, the Unreal Tournament that shared the same date decided to do something a little different by rewarding the player in last place, albeit in a rather humiliating way. In the mutant multiplayer mode, much like that one Simpsons episode with Conan O'Brien, only the mutant may dance, and by dance I mean score points, having gained this illustrious title by being the first player to turn other meat sacks into body paste, and does so by, you guessed it, filing their opponent's taxes. No, I kid, of course, it's murdering them in horrible ways. Yet while this mutant overlord is running rampant at the top of the leaderboard, it turns out that another title has been doled out to the poor soul in last place, the bottom feeder. Now while this might sound terrible, and trust me, it is, the bottom feeder also gets access to a secret power, and that is the ability to score points. None of the other players outside of the bottom feeder and the mutant can score points, and so it actually becomes a rather devious little trick to keep the leaderboard actually as small a margin as possible. This means that while other players desperately vie for the top spot, you as a lowly scum sucker can mop up some points and close the gap. Now admittedly, you won't get to the top using just this method as you'll trade with other players, but it keeps the gap close enough to always be enjoyable no matter the skill level. And yes, I know that the mutant gets 5 whole points for killing the bottom feeder, thus hammering home how much better they are, but come on guys, I'm trying to bring people up, not push people down, alright? Number 3, I am bread, the magic marmalade. Now I don't know about you friends, but in the Gill household there is only one true breakfast of champions. Well, 2 technically, because I always have a little snack on some Warhammer sprues just for roughage, but clearly the number 1 spot will always go to toast. Buttered, jammed, preserved, chutneyed, cheesed, beans, then of course the ultimate form with peanut butter, marmite and a few drops of hot sauce, toast is the king of snacks and is the best way to start my goddamn day. Therefore, I'm quite averse to anything that might affect my humble slice and keep my toaster in tip-top condition, and it's also why it causes me physical and unending pain whenever my digital bread hit the deck in the video game I Am Bread. And let's not even get started at the amount of projectile vomit that hits my screens whenever said bread goes near water. Not a duck. Excuse me on that one. Having your slice touch anything unclean in this game results in your edibility score dropping, and should it hit absolute 0, you'll fail the mission and have to try again. Yet it turns out that there's a reward for getting muck on your loaf, as if you fail a mission twice, you'll be presented with the magic marmalade, an item that gives you unlimited grip and a perfect edibility score. This means that you can now fling your slice into the unknown, do the worm under the bed with the dust bunnies, and even dive into a bloody bin and still come out looking like butter would actually bloody melt, because you, sir, are a hot slice of yeasty goodness. Now get yourself in that toaster pronto, my friend, because daddy's hungry. I actually am. I'm going to have some more toast after this. Decided. Number 2, West of Loathing. Losses become your victories. Now I won't lie to you, friends. I absolutely love it when video games use fail-forward mechanics. You know those scenarios where, say, a boss beats you or you fail a certain section and the game just goes, look, fine, we're not going to make you restart again, we're going to take that into account and we're going to move on, maybe even give you alternate story paths. I love that mechanic because it makes things feel more real, like your choices and your actions actually have merit. I mean, it's the entire backbone of Disco Elysium, for example, where because you play such a colossal loser, you bungle nearly every encounter in some form or fashion, and as we've seen recently in Dragon's Dogma 2, it is more than happy to let you carry on your quest, even though said quest givers have just been annihilated because you took too long rummaging through a goblin's corpse for loot. Seriously though, Arisen, they are only wearing loincloths. Where do you keep putting your hand? Yet a rather charming example of this mechanic that ends up rewarding struggling players can be found in West of Loathing, an indie slapstick man western, which is the yeehaw kind, not the capitalism kind. Now here, your losses actually power you up, as they will fill an anger meter that buffs all your other stats as well as your pain tolerance, meaning that the more you suck, the easier future fights will be. Now that being said, there is actually a limit to this mechanic, because if your anger level ever surpasses your grit level, you'll pass out, wake up, and your stats will be reset. But still, what I love about this game is that it lets you have fights, lose them, come back, and then absolutely kick the ass of the person who handed you a defeat. Now that is something I really, really love. And number 1, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time / Darkness, a pocket monster full of items. The Pokemon franchise, a series of games that portrays itself as being solely for kids, but then dumps a bunch of folders and spreadsheets on your lap before backing away and laughing about hold items and creepy breeding patterns. It is a franchise that is supremely easy to pick up, but at high levels requires so much planning and micromanagement that the tagline of wanting to be the very best almost becomes a second job. Thankfully though, there are some games in the franchise that don't do the whole punching you in the top of the head with information and actually offer a helping hand, and such an example can be found in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time and Darkness. And/or Darkness. Time and/or Darkness. But they only come about if you, well, absolutely suck and die. Cool! So early on in the game, you're given the chance to join Wigglytuff's guild before then setting out on daring adventures. Yet, if you somehow, and trust me, you actively have to try here, fail the quest Drenched Bluff twice, you'll then be able to speak to Wigglytuff about your predicament. Now Wigglytuff, being the rather supportive type that they are, doesn't dress you down or have a moan about your rather staggering incompetence, but instead gives you some words of encouragement before then doling out a Reviver Seed, Aurum Berry, and Max Elixir. Now with these, your quest will be, admittedly, still fairly tough in the long run, but the short term, you've got a lot of very powerful items to at least get you through the opening gate. That's great! That's great, right? Yeah, I know he's going to get his head kicked in the moment that those items are used, but still, hey, have some fun, you cheeky whippet. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video games that rewarded you for sucking. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over here, and you can follow my lovely editor over here as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing, my friends. Sometimes in life, it can feel like we too are sucking. It can be pressures, it can be work, it can be familial, it can be love, it can just all get to you. But remember, above all else, you don't suck. You are a massive ledge. You deserve love. You deserve happiness. You deserve success. We all do as human beings, and I hope that you're smashing your life goals. But remember, above all else, just treat yourself with that bit of kindness, all right? Just start your day with that. It goes a long way, trust me. Big love to you, my friend, and I will see you here on The Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby, next week. Bye!